Is Shantaram my best read of 2025? Let's find out. Hello book lovers, welcome to Uncommon Reader. I'm Daniela and it's finally time to talk about Shantaram. Yes, it is definitely so far my favorite read of 2025 and definitely among my favorite reads of my whole life. And actually I have an issue just rating this book 5 stars because if I compare it to other books that I've read so far, I mean, this book, it's beyond 5 stars because it checked all the boxes. First of all, it's a true story. It's the story of its author. It's a journey of many types. It's an adventure. It's a story of friendship, of brotherhood, of love, and many philosophical and introspective reflections. So the author sets our expectations pretty high, and it does so in the incipit that I want to read for you. It took me a long time and most of the world to learn what I know about love and fate and the choices we make, but the heart of it came to me in an instant while I was chained to a wall and being tortured. I realized somehow through the screaming in my mind that even in that shackled, bloody helplessness, I was still free to hate the men who were torturing me or to forgive them. It doesn't sound like much, I know, but in the flinch and bite of the chain, when it's all you've got, that freedom is a universe of possibilities. And the choice you make between hating and forgiving can become the story of your life. In my case, it's a long story. Yeah, it's like 936 pages long story and a crowded one. I was a revolutionary who lost his ideals in heroin, a philosopher who lost his integrity in crime, and a poet who lost his soul in a maximum security prison. When I escaped from that prison, over the front wall between the 2 gun towers, I became a country's most wanted man. Luck ran with me and flew with me across the world to India, where I joined the Bombay Mafia. I worked as a gun runner, a smuggler, and a counterfeiter. I was chained on 3 continents, beaten, stabbed, and starved. I went to war. I ran into enemy guns, and I survived, while other men around me died. They were better men than I am, most of them, better men whose lives were crunched up in mistakes and thrown away by the round second of someone else's hate or love or indifference. And I buried them, too many of those men, and grieved their stories and their lives into my own. But my story doesn't begin with them or with the mafia. It goes back to the first day in Bombay. Fate put me in the game there. Luck dealt with the cards and led me to Carla Saranin. And I started to play it out, that hand, from the first moment I looked into her green eyes. So it begins, this story, like everything else, with a woman and a city and a little bit of luck. I mean, how can you resist, right? You'll be glued to this book from this time on. So I'm going to put the book down now and tell you why, for me, this book is so magical. We are glued to what our protagonist is feeling and experiencing because the way Roberts is able to describe everything around him, it's like we're smelling what he's smelling and seeing what he's seeing, because he's so good at describing not only what he sees, but also how he feels. Roberts also gives us with such vivid descriptions of the people that will surround him during his stay in India, starting from the very first man he meets when he lands in Mumbai, which is a taxi driver that will help him find a stay in a hotel, but also he will offer himself to be a guide in the city, and not only to show him the sightseeing, but also to make him understand how the city works, and so even the underground life. And this man is Probacre. Probacre to me was my favorite character alongside with the protagonist of the book, because he embodies this spirit of joy despite being poor. And Roberts describes him as someone that always smiles. He has this beautiful smile, but the way he describes it, you can almost see it as the best smile you can see. Probacre is such a central character in the story. Not only is going to be the guide in the first few days in Mumbai, he'll also become a friend, and he'll provide our protagonist with an Indian name, so we'll know him in the book as Lin or Lin Baba, which is more like an endearment nickname. And not only is going to help Lin when he's going to be robbed of all his money and can't afford to live in a hotel anymore. So Lin will have to move in the slum where Probacre lives. And life in the slums for Lin, for me, was the most touching part of the book, because despite the poverty, the unhealthy conditions, the different ethnicities and religions, beliefs of the thousands of people that lived there, they were getting all along, and they were supporting each other, helping each other, and watching their backs. And it was such a humbling thing to witness, because the author himself, many years later, has gone back to the slum with a BBC journalist, I believe, or CNN, I don't remember, but I'll link this documentary in the info box if you're curious. And he said that when he used to live in the slum, he never felt as protected as other places that he lived afterwards. And he really felt this sense of community, of sharing. Besides, at one point, they considered him a doctor just because he had some knowledge of first aid. And so everyone was just like going to him for help if he had, like rat bites or other things that, of course, didn't require professional medical attention. And he built up a little clinic for the people living there. So he was well known, well loved, and looking back at one point in the book, he kind of missed that, because then he got into working for the mafia. He was comparing the two worlds because when he started working for the mafia, of course, he started making money and he could afford moving out of there. But he kept returning because he missed that family type of relationships as well. This big encounter with the mafia boss was something quite intriguing, because Kader Bahi, that was his name, despite being a criminal, he had a real aura about him. He was quite the philosopher. In fact, when he started inviting Lin to his meetings with his other fellows, they were actually having philosophical conversations. So they were not talking business, but they were just inviting him to these philosophical meetings. So Lin started to see this guy as a father figure, the father he never had, because he was very protective of him and he really took him under his wing. At one point, he was cooked enough to start working with him, and the author explains in the beginning of the book what kind of job he would do for him. There is a love interest, of course. He mentioned Carla. Carla is another expatriate in India. She's also a foreigner who came to Mumbai to escape from something she did. And I'm not going to tell you what, of course. By the way, our protagonist has escaped from a maximum security prison in Australia. And thanks to a fake passport, he then arrived to India. Forgot to mention at the beginning. So the relationship, the love affair with Carla will be a very tumultuous one, and at the same time very intriguing, because both of them have very strong personalities, and despite the interest and the love for each other, it will be quite complicated to put the two of them together. And the theme of love, I think, it's the glue to all these elements in the book, not just the love for a woman, but a true love for life, for every minute of your life, your friends, the experiences, the need to interact, to communicate, to share with others, and also I feel the depth of the change in Lynn's character, reminiscing also on his past, in his time in Australia, and realizing the hurt that he did to his family when he was sent to prison, and the fact that after escaping there was no possibility to make amends to his family, because if he would return to Australia, they would put him to jail again. So it's a very sad and heartbreaking situation, but at the same time, you know, he's trying to live at best through very complicated times and very hard experiences, because as he tells us in the incipit, he will go to prison, he will go to war in Afghanistan, so we'll see a lot of difficult moments, and we'll have to struggle with him. And with all the characters, we will love as much as Lynn, because they are so vivid in our eyes when we read about them. So overall, an amazing experience. I know they have done a TV series from this book, which I haven't seen. I'd be curious to see though. And the author has written a sequel of his story. So the sequel of Shantaram is called The Mountain Shadow, and it will follow Lynn's and the author, of course, next chapter of his life. So I am dying to start reading it, but I guess that I will wait next year to set on this new adventure with Lynn. For now, I can only suggest you give it a try. I know it's quite intimidating with 936 pages in this edition, but you won't regret it. I feel like the characters of Shantaram will be stamped in my brain forever. Sometimes you read a book and after a month or two, you may have forgotten the names of the characters, some of the plot, but yeah, with Shantaram, I feel they have entered my soul and I will remember every tiny detail of this book. And so I hope so. Have you read this book? If you did, let me know which part was your favorite in this book. And if you haven't read it, let me know if you feel like reading it now. So I look forward to chat in the comments. I thank you for watching this video and supporting my channel. I'll see you very soon here on Uncommon Reader with my July favorites in a vlog version. Take care and happy reading in the meantime. Ciao.